In the last episode, we took care of making a setup that will feed infinite oil to our base so that we no longer have to worry about power and plastic. Now I think we can move on from the LV tier quests into the MV tier ones. For this episode, I think we could try to make one HV circuit, but, for the moment, let's start trying to obtain rubylith. This thing is used for making circuit stencils, which are used for making the photolithography masks. Since these masks don't get consumed and there are only 6 of them, I think we can try to just make a batch of that things once in a manual way. To make it, we are going to need glue and the foil of 2 materials. Now, let's see how to make it following quests, starting from gelatin. Since this is going to be a really long process, I think we should split everything into simple, countable steps. And the first step is to go to a copper mine and get some copper-rich mineral, such as malachite. Once we have gathered enough, we can go back to our base, where the second step is to process that raw ore into copper ingots. Next we make some copper wires, which we use to make a bunch of motors, and use them for a couple of more advanced components. In the 7th step, we use these components to craft a drone. And we charge these in a battery buffer. We go take a walk to the roof of our base, where we put in practice the 10th step, making a hole in the rain protection of our drone launch pad. The 11th step is to fix the fire caused by the drilling process. This is 100% part of the process to get HV circuits, there is no way around that. Finally, the last sub-step of the first main step, is to wait for the return of our drone. And, since we want to have a nicer setup, we also automate the drone charging process. And thus, we finally completed the first main step, obtaining bones. However, since that was not a quest, we shall revert back to call that part of step 1. Now that we have bones, the 14th step is to shred them into bone meal. For the next step, we are going to need some hydrochloric acid, which is made by water, chlorine and hydrogen. The last 2 are made by electrolyzing salt water. Then we make 2 more uncounted steps to finish that acid. The 15th step consists of melting down the bone meal in the freshly made acid to extract collagen, which we treat with sodium hydroxide. We centrifuge that with some heated water to make gelatin solution. Finally, the last sub-step of step 1 is to distill that and get the gelatin. And thus we have completed our first quest of the long road to the HV circuits. Gelatin was actually the first of the 3 requirements for the acrylic photoimitator. The next one we shall take care of is trimethyl propan triacrylate, which is gated by brine processing. So, the first step shall be to get some brine. Now, we got the gating quest out of the way, but we are going to need some product of the brine later on, so we move it into 2 evaporation pools to turn it into very concentrated brine. And I'm going to be nice and count that only as a single step. Once we have concentrated enough, we take it with us. We remove its boron contents with some hydrochloric acid. Then we take out the lithium part. We add some chlorine. Then, with the help of a vacuum ejector and some steam, we extract some impure bromine, which we can finally purify. And that took away one of the quest gatings. Now let's work on the acetylene one. We start by making some quicklime dust. Then we build an advanced arc furnace. We drop in the quicklime with some form of carbon. We take some time to admire how cool that multiblock looks. We take out the calcium chloride we just made. Finally, we reacted with water to obtain acetylene. And that was one more completed quest. With acetylene and bromine we can quickly make the first component of the current main step. To do that, we first have to roast nickel and copper in the previously obtained bromine to obtain a catalyst. Then we build a reaction furnace. We drop inside the catalyst, the acetylene, some carbon monoxide and some water. and thus we have the acrylic acid. However, working with these nasty chemicals is not healthy, so we shall take a walk and go outside as next step. The next step is to notice that the grass isn't as green as it used to be. It might be due to pollution, or it might be due to the winter getting close. Then we notice that the step counter is close to a jackpot, so we do 3 steps to go back inside our base. Now we have only one quest gating the main step quest. The first step is to get some ethylene. This is worth around 100 steps, which we already made in the last episode. Then we have to make 100 more to walk all the way back to our laboratory. Next, with a silver catalyst, we react oxygen gas with the ethylene to obtain ethylene oxide. We purify it with a distillery. And we react it with water to obtain ethylene glycol mix, which we finally distill into unmixed ethylene glycol. And that was actually the first 2 liquids for that quest. The third fluid will require some platinum. To make that, we first need some P from resin, which is actually a mix of nitric acid and hydrogen chloride. Now that we have the yellow liquid, we can go take 100 steps to find some platinum. We quickly collect a bit in form of spurylite. Then we walk all the way back to our base, where we roast the worked mineral in an EBF. We extract the platinum from the roaster mineral by reacting it with hydrochloric acid. Then we turn that into a catalyst bed, which we finally use to obtain acetaldehyde, the last of the 3 weird fluids. Since the quest doesn't trigger, we have to manually click a button, which I think is an effort worth 10 steps. Now we can work on the last part of the main step. The first sub-step is to produce crotonaldehyde mixture. Then we distill it. We turn it into butyraldehyde. For the next chemical, we have to go outside and collect some wood. And I think this was about 30 steps from our base, so 60 total to go back. Then we use a pyrolyze oven to make wood vinegar, which we distill into methanol. We use that to synthesize formaldehyde. Then we make trimethyl prop and dust out of that, which, finally, was the last ingredient to complete the last sub-step of the current main step. Sadly, now that we have completed the main step, we have to clear out these nice digits in step counter. Now the thing that separates us from rubylith is acrylic photoinitiator. And, to unlock that, we have to start all the way back to phenol. We can distill that out of creosote oil. Next, we can roast it with zinc to obtain benzene. We stir that with nitrogen to obtain nitrobenzene mixture. And it was at that point that we run into a huge issue. We need a phase separator, which is made out of stainless steel, and we can't make that yet. So, we change our plans and start working towards palladium for the alternative recipe. The first 1,000 steps for making palladium is finding an alluvial deposit, which is a 5x5 of rocks that can't be broken by any tool. To extract something out of that, we have to build a giant mining drill over the deposit, one step at a time. Once the structure is built, we can give it power to finally obtain some ores. Then, we fill up our whole inventory with that stuff and head back home. We build an ore sorter to work these minerals. And the ore we need has a 1% chance of being sorted out. We managed to get a total of 3 from our whole inventory. Then we grind these minerals into dust. And we sift it. And so far, compared to the previous ones, it has been a great year. But all of that still only bring us to nitrobenzene, which is still before the stainless steel gate. So, forget about the drill in the past minute. Let's start over with step 3. We melt some wood pulp in sulfuric acid to make some furfural solution. Then we distill the furry part. Next, we take out the oil part out of coal tar. we mix it with sulfuric acid to make it acidic. Finally, we centrifuge it with the furry slurry to make pyridinium sulfate. Then we work in an EBF some arsenopyrite to make an iron oxide, which we can roast to obtain Wastide catalyst that we can use to make a gas rich in ammonia. Next, we make a bunch more of steps and start losing the count, until we finally complete the third main step. That fluid, however, has only one usage, which is the one we are going to use it for, so we prepare a bunch of red dye and then complete the rubylith film. It may looks like we are almost done since this item has the same name of the output, but you are completely wrong if you had that idea. Since this step turned out to be not too hard, and not because I'm tired of counting, I'm going to leave the counting of steps as an exercise for the students. Don't forget to confront your answer with the one of the other people in the comments, but the real prize will be the satisfaction of having participated in something completely useless. Once we managed to get the polyethylene terethylate, all we have to do is extrude it twice. Finally, we assemble everything up. And there we have it, rubylith. Next time, we are going to put it to good use. Bye bye.